This is called Deep Were His Wounds and Dread. Deep were his wounds and dread on cruel Calvary, where on the cross he bled in bitter agony. But they whom sin has wounded sore by find healing in the wounds he bore. But they whom sin has wounded sore find healing in the wounds he bore. He suffered shame and scorn, and wretched our disgrace, forsaken and forlorn. He hung there in our place. But all who would from sin be free look to his cross for victory. But all who would from sin be free look to his cross for victory. His life is all he gave when he was crucified, our burdened souls to save. What fearful death he died, but each of us, though dead in sin, through Christ eternal life may win. But each of us, though dead in sin, through Christ eternal life may win. I was born and raised in Michigan, in a small town outside of Ann Arbor called Tecumseh, and I didn't grow up super involved in church, but I was baptized when I was a baby, and my mom and dad took me to church now and again, and sometimes that was sort of important to me, and then sometimes, like a lot of kids, I didn't pay attention much or sort of wasn't very interested in it. And so by the time I got to high school, nobody's fault really but my own, I was completely uninterested in what the church had to say or the Christian faith. And so when I went to school, when I went to college, I went there and really abandoned actively, both in what I was saying and what I was doing and what I was believing. Christianity, I'm not sure that I had given much of a commitment to the Christian faith before, but I certainly didn't have one when I got there. So after a couple of years, through a series of events in the middle of my junior year, sort of was faced with the reality that I didn't have any real purpose in life. I know that's really sort of dramatic, and it's also sort of ambiguous, but over this period of a couple of weeks, sort of was put face to face with the fact that I didn't have any real purpose and I didn't know what was going on in my life. And it was a great gift to be so confused and to be so scared about where I was going or what I was doing. And so in a sort of in a response of desperation and panic and so on, I started to pray, and I started to go to a local church that was on campus of our college, Western Michigan University.
Unless the Lord the house shall build, the weary builders toil in vain. Unless the Lord the city shield, the guards a useless watch maintain. In vain you rise at morning break, and late your nightly vigils keep, and of the bread of toil partake, God gives to his beloved sleep.
When I graduated from seminary and got married, and my wife and I moved to New York, I didn't really grow up with the Christian faith being a sort of active part of our home or anything like that, and so I began to have this idea that I wanted to have it be a part of our home, and one of those ways would be singing, and neither my wife or I played an instrument at that time, and so I thought, well, I need to learn how to play an instrument, so I went and started taking piano lessons. And I just never took to it, and it never took to me, and I would just never practice, and I would show up the next week, and there I was sitting next to this woman, just embarrassed because I just wasn't any farther along. So I bought a guitar and was hoping that that would go better, and it sort of did. And so I started to learn how to play the guitar a little bit, and over the years, you know, of sort of banging out really rudimentary hymns and gospel songs, other friends and people that I knew would play with us sometimes in our home, and then you know, and then some friends sort of enabled us and facilitated us even recording some songs, and then that slowly segued into playing out a little bit. But it sort of all began as a way just for Monique and I to sing to God and sing to each other.
But for you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness will rise, healing in His wing, and you shall go forth again, and skip about like ants, coming from their stalls and lands.
Through various circumstances, you know, we've put this record together and made it available, and hope that people enjoy it, and hope that people buy it, and all those things. But we didn't start with an intention for how it would be received, or even with an intention of a sort of mission for it, and outside of those things that I said. I really hope that people enjoy it. When people have come up to us and said that they enjoyed the music, or written us emails or letters or whatever, which, by the way, doesn't happen a lot. I'm not implying we're getting tons of fan mail. We're not, which is totally fine. Just don't want to, like, I just sort of in passing say, oh, when we get letters, like, there have been 3 or something, so don't. You know, where was I? That's really gratifying, you know, that people have enjoyed it, and, you know, when we put it together, you know, our intention was to enjoy it ourselves, and we did, and we loved putting it together, and it was great fun, and the people that we put it together with, I just really love very much, all the people that worked on the record. Almost to a person, they're all friends of ours, or friends of friends, and so, you know, I hate to make it sound sort of super idealistic, but it was pretty idealistic.
Yeah.
You know, it was a lot of friends making a project together, and a lot of people being really generous to us, and then the result was the record.
Yeah. Yeah, Sufjan produced your album. What was it like for you to work with him?
I don't, you know, I mean, it's hard to answer that question because I've never made music with, you know, I've never really made music with anybody else besides him, and not just him, I mean, like other people too, but I've never made a record with anybody else, and I've never really recorded any music with anybody else, so I can't really compare it. And, you know, it's also hard to talk about because we started doing this a long, long time ago, before there was any thought that it would be a record that you would buy. Like when we first started making songs, we occasionally would, you know, make copies of them and send them to our friends or give them to family or whatever. So it's always been, you know, again, this word is sort of overused, but organic. You know, like we just would do it. We'd record it in our home, and then he would add some things at his house, and then he would bring it back, and we'd play it and say, oh gosh, great, we love it, you know, and then make a few more, and then maybe make a copy of it and send it to some friends. And so it's always been within the guise of spending time together with him and with other people, and even when we did some of the parts in the studio, you know, it was still the same kind of thing. We would schedule out a couple nights, go there, have lunch or have dinner, and eat together, and make a few songs.